Hey, this is Trevor, and today I want to talk about something that I think all teachers would like to have a conversation about: how much we hate group work, right? Like, how many times have you been told as a teacher that you have to teach kids how to collaborate because someday when they get into the real world, they're going to have to know how to work with each other, and it's not like it used to be. Kids can't just be individual workers anymore, they have to know how to do it in groups. And you're like, yeah, I know, but you also haven't been in my classroom and seen what it's like to get 5-year-olds to work in a group of four or to get 15-year-olds to work in a group of four, right? Like, collaboration is hard work. And so often when we have students work in groups and working together, it turns out to be much more counterproductive than to just have them do the work on their own. And yet we know that there is truth to the fact that we do have to teach kids how to work together and how to collaborate. And yet it's difficult to do. So the question is, how do you do it? You know, when I get a chance to speak to a lot of different teachers, and I often ask the question before we have any kind of conversation around this subject: what do you hate most about group work? What do you hate most about having students collaborate? And I hear the same things over and over. And I'm guessing if you're going to leave a comment on this video, you might say the same things. You might say that you don't like it, that it's usually one kid that does all the work, and then there's 3 kids who do nothing. And they just get to ride on the coattail of the person who works the hardest. And that often opens up the door to parents calling you and saying, "Why did my baby get a C?" And you have to be like, "Oh, because everybody in their group didn't work." And she's like, "Well, my baby did." And you have to deal with all that. Or, you know, another complaint that you often hear about with group work is that nobody works, right? Like, you know, what do they say? Like, 1 and you'll get it done, 2 and you'll get half of it done, 3, what's the point, right? Like, and so the more kids that you have sitting around, it's more chances for conversations to happen and for kids to get off task and for kids to play Fortnite or whatever it is. Collaboration leads to no productivity. And then another one that comes up all the time is that you've got one kid who demands to do all the work. And so you've got the kid that's the takeover kid, and they're just dominating all of the conversation, and they just make sure they do all the tasks, and the other kids just kind of sit back, and it's like, well, what should we do? And that kid's like, no, well, I'll take care of it. I'll do all of it. Right? I mean, this is what's difficult about collaboration. And beyond that, it's also hard to get through all the stuff you need to get through when you're also having to spend so much time teaching collaboration skills. So I just want to start off by saying that I get it. Collaboration is difficult work, but it's also really important work. We need more people in our society who know how to work together. People who aren't necessarily friends working together, right? Like, how often have you like said, "Okay, guys, we're gonna do a group project," and kids are like, "Oh, can we pick our groups?" And you're like, no, right? Like, because we have to teach kids how to work with people they're not necessarily comfortable with, because they're going to be spending their career life and political life and neighborhood life working with people that they're not necessarily friends with. And so how do we teach this stuff? How do we make it actually possible to have productive collaboration in our classrooms? I think it starts by having some good tools and processes to make it work. Before I do any type of group project with my students, and I mean any type, I always have groups fill out some type of group contract. You know, that's a contract, and you can actually find a link to it in the comments or the description of this video. But a group contract, it's a simple document where kids put their names, they put the things that they're strong, like what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses on whatever the project is, and then they make agreements with each other. They say, "I agree to stay on task. I agree to make sure I stay off my phone during group work. I agree to always check in with my group if I'm absent." You know, it's simple things that they probably already know, but you have them as a group discuss them and write them down, and then I have them all sign it at the end. And I have my students put an accountability process at the bottom of the group contract where they say, if you violate this, you get a warning, and after a certain number of warnings, we recommend to the teacher that you are fired from the group. And what happens when you're fired from the group? Well, you have to start the entire project over. You have to do the whole project by yourself, and you don't get to use any of the tools or resources that your group already found. And so you have this natural, and you have the same deadline as everybody else, but now a shorter time to actually do it. So you've got this natural consequence for not working well with your group. And I'll call your mom. And that's usually one that really makes kids dread getting fired. And so I have to teach my students, hey, this is how you hold people accountable. This is how you give a warning. This is how you confront somebody when they're taking advantage of your group. By, if they're sitting there playing Fortnite on their phone while everybody else is working, that's not cool. That's making you have to work harder. And so I try to equip them with tools that help them hold each other accountable and make sure that everybody is contributing to the group work. Another thing that I do is I have my students grade each other, and I have them give each other collaboration grades. And I don't just do it at the end of a project. I have them do it halfway and sometimes a quarter of the way through the project. I'll give students a specific piece of paper that says, how would you grade your group mates based on how well they've collaborated so far? And then you have to actually justify it. And I have them keep it anonymous, so nobody knows who gave who what grade. And then after they do this and they justify whatever grade they gave to each other and what grade they gave to themselves, how well they think that they've worked with everybody else, then I collect it, and I'll actually, using also my own observations, I'll put a grade in the grade book. And if a student gets a grade that they're not really happy with, if their whole group and me have this consensus that they have not been collaborating well, that grade's going to sit in the grade book for a bit. But if they pick it up and they start collaborating better and they've got this formative assessment now that tells them, hey, you're not working the way everybody wants you to work, you've got the rest of this project to pick it back up. Because then I give the same formative assessment at the end of the project, and everybody does the same grading, and I give my own assessment, and they get a brand new grade. And they have an opportunity to take whatever it was at up to something brand new. And so this is a way to help kids kind of stay more on track, stay more collaborative. And the truth is, I really have to focus on this group contract and this group grading and this kind of accountability measures in the beginning of the year. Because the truth is, the more and more group projects we do, the more collaborating they do, the better they get at doing all of this stuff. And then you start seeing kids start holding each other accountable in other areas of life, because now they know how. They learn that being critical isn't necessarily putting them down. It's actually just helping them get back on track. And it's helping them, get the project or whatever the work is done. I think that's at the heart of project-based learning, is having tasks that are really important to students. Something beyond just grades or schoolwork, something authentic that they actually want to work towards. And, and I try to design projects in my class to where it requires collaboration. It's too much work. It's too difficult or complex work to be done by a single person. And so I feel like when students leave a class where they are taught how to collaborate, they're ready to collaborate better the next year in somebody else's class. Or when they move on into college, they're going to know how to do those group projects. And when they move into the career world, they'll know how to hold people accountable. I don't know about you, but on the teaching staffs that I've worked on, I think we could all use a little bit more collaboration and know how to work together better. And I think that starts by teaching students at a very young age how to do that. So anyway, if you want to keep this conversation going, please chime in on the comments. Let us know what's the bane of your existence in the classroom. Is it collaboration? Is it something else? Would love to have a talk about that as well. But until next time, I'm Trevor. Take it easy.